that in the secondary phase, it was a Thor and a Fenrir, and earlier on, Odin and Nemesis banned away from Cyclone.
So, a couple of different options as the Fafnir is banned out as well. For Fantastique, I think complete drawing board rechange. The whole early game dynamic just didn't seem to work out. Like you said, it did once, but not twice, 3 times, and that's really what you need to make it happen.
Especially with a Thanatos in the jungle that relies so heavily on the early kills and the potential to snowball. And Isis and a Thanatos that's behind in the early to mid game, it just doesn't provide the same presence.
Exactly, like you mentioned earlier, it had remnants of the idea of the North American Ares that we saw yesterday. Just there are certain characters where if you don't get the wheels underneath them early, they never become mobile. So a little bit of a problematic draft selection from Fantastique. They've got the first pick available to them this time around. Odin, Nem, Ymir, Fafnir banned out. Fantastique now focusing on a jungle, perhaps?
It's going to be the Arlong solo. See, Susanoo is open at the moment, Thor, Fenrir, so they're going to go for Arlong Shen, which could be a flex pick between solo or jungle. More than likely going to go solo for Mogao, knowing how aggressive he does like to play.
I also like the Arlong Shen because it doesn't dictate a play style. Arlong Shen will fit into a multitude of different combinations, whether it's early game, late game, mid game, objective based, kill based, pick composition. Arlong Shen can fit into a lot of those, so leaving a lot of ambiguity on the board. Cyclone, on the other hand, NBK loves this on her. And when it comes to hunter choices, I don't ever like a hunter choice first picked. I either love it or I hate it.
Well, if it's in the second pick, you don't want to show off too much information at this point between your middle and jungler synergy, so it's a nice idea to hold off on your mid pick, wait to see what Fantastique does in response, and then maybe look for a really hard counter and even delay your mid laner. Maybe you're going to go for a solo lane pick immediately after. The Odin is banned by Cyclone, so they don't have the anti-healing on the Isis, but they have other options.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a ton of other options to really deal with Isis. I mean, Cyclone could go Thanatos themselves and shove Susanoo in the solo lane. A lot of different choices for Cyclone. But Fantastique, they'll go with the Bacchus. Bacchus, #1 support in your mind, question mark?
Well, it seems that in this meta, at least, that the Fafnir and the Bacchus are the 2 most heavily contested supports at this point. So, especially whenever you can follow it up with an Isis and more heavy artillery damage, Arlong Shen can poke from a distance as well, then it's not a bad idea to have this kind of setup.
CycloneGG following their first game dominant duo lane with the same thing. On her and Ares will reprise their role, and that's exactly what you need to do. I think that everything worked according to plan here. I think Fantastique Dardes, I think he buys a purification this game, level 1.
He has to if he doesn't want any sort of snowball. He unfortunately did get traded off earlier on in the game. He was focused quite heavily, dying after the Gold Feeder, I believe, as well. So he was definitely a nice target. And then it shifted after that point in time to being onto Jermaine with Deathwalker forcing the early purification.
Right, early game, you want to really put a lot of control onto that support pick, disallowing any sort of initiation and any sort of coherent team fight. And then late game, you can sort of get away with counter initiations without a traditional belly flop or whatnot. Just pure damage is enough, which is why we saw the shift of attention to Jermaine. Cyclone will choose Kronos, likely for their mid lane.
We don't necessarily know quite yet. Could be a hunter pick as well. We could see a physical hunter in middle. There is the Uller option. Neath is available as well. Neath, Susanoo could really try to help out these side lanes, maybe allow Vote MBK to really get ahead.
So Arlong Shen likely to be the jungle choice as Sobek is chosen for Fantastique. So Bacchus, support, Sobek, solo, jungle, Arlong Shen, Houyi in the Hunter and Isis in the mid lane. So interesting choice for World Edit. Again, 2 games in a row, non-traditional junglers.
Well, they have great teamfight presence as opposed to the last game that CycloneGG had. They're trying to get a Guardian in that solo lane, expecting that maybe it's going to be a Guardian in the solo for Cyclone, and it's going to be Xingqian locked in. So it is going to be the Kronos middle.
Yep.
Could be the Xingqian, more than likely going to be the Xingqian in the solo lane. So there's going to be a lot of bullying between these 2 gods in the solo lane. Normally you don't see a bullying from a Guardian, but if it's a Guardian versus Guardian, you're going to find the trades.
You know, it's interesting. I wonder, as the players get loaded in here, Mogao will be playing that solo Sobek and Dardes on the support Bacchus. No surprise there. No surprise there at all. Deathwalker on the Xing Qian and Kalis on the Ares. Like I said, Wolfie will be playing the Anher, so Voda and BK taking the Chronos into the long lane. Kalis had a fantastic time working with Anher. I don't really care if it's on Voda and BK or Wolfie. When you're at a team at this level, it's just about the combination of abilities and how well you're going to do that. And we saw how fantastically we saw how great the combination of the Ares into the Anher pillar worked out for Cyclone last time. I expect the same thing here.
Recognizing that's fantastic. They banned away the Ymir because of the wall presence as well. So the Anher, at least they still have that afterwards. And because of the Guardian-less Ymir on the side of Cyclone, they pick up the Xing Chen in the solo. They still want to have the same kind of control in these team fights. There's a lot of options. You have repositioning with your ultimate, forcing a lot of purifications, which is exactly what Deathwalker did last game, so he's going to be looking to do the same this time around.
Instead of the freeze, we'll see some of the ultimate. The pancake flip is actually one of my favorite abilities in Smite. The little knock up into the root. I think it delivers so much control in a small package that's able to really isolate a target very easily.
You just get the better end of both worlds. You got the knockup and a root. Normally, the last couple patches ago, we've seen that they took away the roots earlier on, and you could still walk away, but now bringing it back. So Xing Chen has seen a little bit more play time as a result, even in the Guardian position.
Yeah, I think that ability makes or breaks the character, in my opinion. The ultimate has a long windup, and comically so, but players just don't care as long as you can get that root. But another thing about that ability is that it's deceptive. A lot of times players don't initially feel the need to go ahead and burn purification, but before you know it, you're already toast.
And the travel time of going from the ground to the sky, then back down, and then getting rooted in place, it's quite a long time.
Dardas gets stunned out and hits with a chain. Decent amount of damage going his direction, but shouldn't impact him too much. Half HP on the Chronos before the rewind available.
I like the body block that Jermaine had, absorbing the second and third chain for Dardas. That was very low. Now forced to use the meditation early on in the laning phase should give a lot of flexibility to Cyclone.
World edit with the invade on the back harpies of 4 Cyclone all by himself. Usually we talk about the invade of those back harpies coming off of mid lane pressure and a strong play either in the duo, solo, either one of the lanes. That invade, that's just World Edit being aggressive. There's no pressure here in the mid lane. You can see Nulissa pushed on her own tower on the Isis the second time. World Edit just sort of went for it.
Well, Isis is a great god to play passive under her own tower. She can clear the wave very efficiently. She can even allow the wave under her tower if there's a fear of being dove. So you have that luxury, and you still get the whole wave. So great split from World Edit. He should be able to hit level 5 first as a result.
And with that level 5, gives him a big taunt, allowing him to direct the enemy into some damage. We'll see how Arlong Shen uses that in the jungle, as we're really used to seeing Arlong Shen in the solo lane. The biggest difference between the jungle and the solo lane, besides obviously the jungler being all over the map, is the amount of farm. Arlong Shen, will he be able to survive with less farm?
Something we didn't mention really is, as we see a counter invade on the back right, Harpies coming out Ice Baby, so at least getting that in return. Deathwalker rushing Stone of Gaia against the Sobek, wants to have the regen as quickly as possible.
So last time around, you know, I mentioned it, not built against the Thanatos, but having sort of an off-brand or off-label application there. Here, really nothing threatening as far as the execution is concerned or whatnot. So Deathwalker just liking the amount of health that that item is going to bring him.
The regen is going to be nice to allow him to keep spamming these abilities, which will also work in conjunction with his passive, giving him that much more HP 5. So if you don't kill him with your initial burst, he's going to come back into the team fight with more than half health very quickly.
Yeah, the HP 5 on Xing Qian, I mean, it's one of the more annoying things in Smite, to be completely honest with you. Deathwalker going to meet up with Mogao one more time. Mogao trying to do what he can. Gets rooted out. Not a lot of damage. Not a lot of damage coming out from either of these characters early on. As is the case with most Guardians, it's all about less about their scaling and more about their base damage. So look more for the experience to pile up than the items.
And that's just the unfortunate circumstances of being a Guardian in general. You have low base damage earlier on, and you don't really have until you have the cooldowns and the mana base, you can't really be that raid boss in the early laning phase.
Small play by Kalis made there that I absolutely love. Little aggression in the jungle. Bacchus belly flops on top of him, and immediately out come the flames. Ares is immune during the flames, so can't get knocked up. Is immune to the knockup during the flames, so can't get knocked up. Nice little interaction there being used by Kalas.
And that's the kind of mechanics you have to understand if you're going to be playing on the SPL level. All these teams are very recognizable. We have a gank from Ice Ice Baby. Going to force out the jump from both of these characters, so just a little bit of a wash.
Great stun. Great stun. That winds up being a kill. Either on Jermaine or Dardes. That winds up being a kill if we can see Ice Ice continue the pathing down that lane. So unable to do so thanks to a stun. And Cyclone avoids, or rather Fantastique avoids becoming the victim of another first blood.
About 4.5 minutes in. Teams are very even at the moment. Fantastique only about 200 to 300 gold ahead. They're going to be able to group up as the solo lane. The Speed and the Blue are respawning, and we saw Nulissa and World Edit earlier on off screen. They forced the Purification out of Vote MBK in the mid lane. They didn't really extend that though. They could have maybe found another opportunity to look for it, but Vote MBK, I'm sorry, Wolfie, because he was
on her.
There you go, Wolfie.
You.
Yeah, Wolfie was the one.
I get you. The on her choice. Like we said, I mean, it worked out well for Vote MBK last game. He's played it a number of times at a high level, so I don't fault you for it, but it is Wolfie on the on her mid, and I think that's why we see a little change to the build pathing on the on her mid, going Transcendence instead of the lifesteal that we saw. We mentioned that it was going to be an all hunter fight fest in that duo lane game number 1. That's pretty much what we got, and that's why you saw the build into the Devo gloves. Transcendence, Wolfie's he's gonna relinquish a little bit of the early game presence for more of a mid and late game with that Transcendence that'll allow him to do a lot of damage. But right now, Cyclone gonna sneak the Gold's Fury. Fantastic, no, but there's just not enough options. Dardes shows up a little bit too late. Now the follow-up, again, a little bit too late.
Perfect timing from Cyclone. They don't give up anything in return. They don't give up any kills. They don't give up any buffs. They recognize that Fantastique had to back, and it's too early to start pushing down these towers. We see Jermaine only level 7 currently, so he's not going to be able to do that much quite yet.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the opposite of this last time around where Fantastique went ahead and got an objective, but Cyclone was able to bite back, not just bark. They found some kills, they found some objectives. Cyclone, on the other hand, a little bit too far away from the Gold Fury to make the chase into the jungle.
And in the solo lane, having to use the ultimate just for clear. Sometimes you see a Sobek using his ultimate. Sometimes you'll see Xing Chen just for the damage. You don't always have to use the ultimate in laning phase to get poke off.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the downsides to the Guardian, is the low clear level a lot of the time. Invade out of the red buff coming out from Fantastique. They're going to walk past it as it's still spawning, but it'll spawn right on Nulissa's face. And there you go see the guys from Fantastique attack, assault, and this red buff should go their way, but do the dual lane come in? No, because of the positioning of Ho Yi. Jermaine keeps the Cyclone dual lane honest by taking that aggressive stance in the lane.
It's all about the communication. Jermaine could have communicated whether or not Vote MBK or Kalas was making their way towards the red buff. So overall, Fantastique at least walking away with the red buff.
And that's a great play for Fantastique, because in both game 1 and 2, we see Fantastique trying to make these plays, and even when they do, they wind up trading something back. That's the first time that Fantastique actually execute a play. Wow.
Whoa.
Big shout out to Vote NBK. And don't give anything up for it. And I think that's a very important play for Fantastique to internalize and think about.
I'm still internalizing how much damage Vote MBK just took from the second bounce and then the third bounce off of that ricochet. Beautifully positioned by Jermaine. Just have to always respect his mechanics.
And you saw that a lot of times players say, oh man, the double bounce and everything are accidental. Hold that, we'll get into that in a moment. Dardes gonna dance over the speed buff, pushed back. There's a toss. It's a 3-on-3. Ice Ice Baby in trouble. Knocked up, pushed back. There's Wolfie's ult, but here comes Deathwalker. Kalas gets first blood as he puts down Dardes. Nulissa pops the ultimate underneath too. Kalas in trouble of his own. Double knockup from the Susanoo, and World Edit from a distance finds the spear throw.
Gonna use the Purification just to walk on out. Wolfie makes the rotation while Jermaine, he's gonna be able to farm in the mid lane. World Edit using the turtle form just to walk away. Overall, it's going to be a 1-for-1 as both supports fell, but Dardes fell first, so advantage goes to Cyclone.
I love that Arlong Shen ability, just the perfect arc on it. It looks like you're playing lawn darts or beer pong, just like over the top, right with the arc, lands on top and gets the kill. World Edit, making the Arlong Shen jungle work. This is a character that we've seen pretty much always in the solo lane, making not his debut. We've seen him here and there in the jungle, but he brings a different presence to the jungle. He plays in the solo lane like a bully, like a Robin, just all in your face, punching you down. Really, what does that translate to in the jungle?
It's also a lot of flexibility in the jungle because of the damage that he brings, the mobility, the attack, whether or not he wants the attack speed off the Mig, or if he wants a little bit of a health bubble off the turtle. And because of that, he has a 1-level advantage over Ice Ice Baby, as opposed to the last game on the Thanatos that has no flexibility. You have to find those kills. He was behind most of the whole game.
Right, and Ice Ice Baby, the big thing about last game, game number 1, Ice Ice Baby, whether it was because of the threat of the early game Thanatos or not, Ice Ice was dictating the pace of the game. He knew Thanatos on the other side, look, we've got to play aggressive, we'll do that exactly, and Ice Ice was making all these plays. By 9:40 last game, there were a ton of kills because Ice Ice was very aggressive. We're not seeing that same aggression out of Cyclone this time around, and because of that, Fantastique able to stay in.
Well, we saw Cyclone trying to force something in mid lane, but it got spotted out. And just like this, we're going to see more, a little bit of a spotting out, looking for the long-range poke, World Edit finding Wolfie, but nothing in return. And because of that Sentry Ward on the bottom right mid-Harpies, we saw that Deathwalker was spotted out, and instantly Fantastique, they'd retreat under their middle tower. Just great recognition and discipline from Fantastique.
Yeah, they're Fantastique are playing very cautious, which game number 1 kind of got them in trouble. We saw them try to make plays, they got in trouble to make plays, and then they were too timid to make any play and wound up losing off of that mentality pretty much. This time around, I think they're acceptably cautious. They just got to be careful not to be too careful.
I like the way you put it. And Mogao definitely not careful. He wants to not allow Deathwalker to back. He wants to negate more gold for Deathwalker just to give him a little bit of an advantage once these team fights happen. Maybe he'll get the tier 3 item over Deathwalker.
Sobek, not even that tanky though, spends all that resources trying to knock out Deathwalker, winds up putting himself low enough to go ahead and back. With that in mind, Mogao teleports over to this fight by the Gold Fury, and it might have been a little bit too soon. Fantastique now aggressing onto the objective. 75% HP on top of it.
Deathwalker from behind is going to blink in, forcing Nalissa to use the purification, and with that, Bacchus belly flopping on Kalis.
And there's the ultimate out of Nulissa. Kalis in trouble. One more shot will do it, but Wolfie finds it first. World Edit does get the dart over the top, taking down Kalis. It's a 1-for-1. Both supports are sitting down. Mogao being chased by Deathwalker. Ricochet comes on through. No target. 4-on-4.
And that was such a great initiation from Deathwalker. It was just so unfortunate that all the members split up, and Fantastique World Edit, he's coming from the back, but he got spotted.
And the way Wolfie positioned himself, jumping over the top, was excellent, but Nulissa catches 2 with the Spirit Ball. Double stun, more importantly, double damage. Mogao dashes out of the Time Rift, and VoteNBK just barely avoids taking out the solo laner. Mogao with the hot blink to safety, and there's the damage done. VoteNBK falls to a Ricochet and a slap in the face from the mid laner. Fantastique are up 1 kill, 3-2. And they'll aggress on the Gold Fury.
That's the kill that they need to open up this Gold Fury. Kyle is finding the one chain, but gets instantly stunned out twice in a row. Gonna get bullied out, but his presence alone forces the Gold Fury reset.
And that's Kalis after he just respawned. Keep in mind, this fight went on from 11. That's Kalis. He got killed and then came back. That's how long these guys were fighting over the Gold Fury, and it amounts to nothing.
Just great action overall. If we saw one more kill on either side, that Gold Fury surely would have been taken. However, they didn't really have the objective secures for the Gold Fury. The Isis ultimate was down, just now coming back up. So on the side of Cyclone, they only have realistically the on-hurl to try to confirm the gold.
And Wolfie had already used it in the team fights there. You watched. Actually, I loved the play out of Wolfie. You saw World Edit make the wraparound as CycloneGG, and Wolfie jumped over onto the other side, trapping World Edit right in between. The only reason Arlong Shen got out was because Nulissa found a double stun through the wall with the Spirit Ball.
Just the trusting in your own teammates. World Edit needed to position himself that way. He needed to think of something outside the box to stop the Gold Fury. With the amount of pressure that Cyclone had earlier on, just forcing Fantastique out because they were a little bit too low to really contest head on. It's better to come in from the backhand side, especially if your abilities can go through walls.
Kyle is here looking for the pull on Jermaine. Doesn't have it available. This time he's opted for the early shell. So not quite the not quite the purification, as we see even Bacchus not going the purification, but both characters shying away from the aggression of the blink and going into more of the team fight. I think Kala said, all right, we abused Dardes, and that can happen to me just as easily. So I'm going to go Shell just in case.
And it's not a bad idea to negate the purification here, because you want those teamfight relics, and you want to be the target of the enemy team to absorb all those cooldowns, allowing the rest of your team to follow up. You have to have trust in your teammates to follow up.
I mean, like we said, Dardes got aggressed on last time. He could either use the purification and save himself, or when he gets aggressed on, pop the meditation, and everybody has already used their, we saw the pull into the pillar, into the on her ultimate, into another ultimate. If you're able to med and walk away from that, I mean, that's what a counter initiation is all about.
Well, supports are getting to level 12 very soon. Level 11 on Dardas, 10 on Kalas in about 2 more minutes or so. We'll see their secondary relics, whether or not we'll see the Blink or the Meditation for Kalas, and more than likely going to be the Shell for Dardas.
Look how not sneaky Fantastique is. All 3 players to their core just hiding in a corner directly on top of Cyclone's ward.
And with that aggression, they're pushing out the mid wave right off the bat. They're looking for something in the jungle, whether or not it's going to be NBK, but he backs instead.
And that's because Fantastique have all this pressure in the lanes. Left side getting pushed into a tower, right side as well. A lot of pressure coming out from the guys on Fantastique. Half HP on the objective, all in. There's the 2 ultimates. In comes trouble, but the Gold Fury goes the way of Fantastique. No problem. Kalas looking for the counter kills. Not going to happen. Mogao rotating in from the right-hand side. 1 player slowed, popping up right underneath Deathwalker, and the ultimate in turn. Well done.
Trading ult for ult, but now without this Hu Yi and Isis ultimate, those are 2 big team fighting ultimates that Cyclone could potentially look to exploit. But Wolfie caught alone in the tier 1 mid tower. There's nobody really here to contest this aggression from Fantastique.
And Deathwalker's ultimate also used pretty much to avoid any potential crowd control. Nulissa did wind up hitting him with the Spirit Ball, but ultimately kind of a waste of the ultimate from Deathwalker. Not available if the team wants to defend either on the tower or the speed buff.
Just making sure that he had that CC immunity. And with the speed buff invade, it's going to be a lot of aggression. World Edit walks away cleanly. He doesn't sacrifice his own life and prevents Ice Ice Baby from getting the speed.
Yeah, speed buff falls down to Fantastique. Fantastique also going to pick up the red buff as well. Out comes the pillar. 3 players from Cyclone coming engaged. 3 silenced as well. Nulissa does well, but could be caught out by Vote NBK. Not the case.
So 16.5 minutes in, despite Fantastique forcing the gold and securing it, they're not that big of a lead going in. It's still a very even game. Cyclone, they could still group up and start forcing the issue. They have great crowd control abilities, whether or not it's going to be the knock-up and the root from Deathwalker, the pull from Ice Ice Baby, and then you got a stun from NBK.
Just a clarification, speed buff does go the way of Ice Ice Baby. So a little bit of a change there. Invasion not going to work out for Fantastique on the right, but this mid lane invasion, I say invasion because they come from the backside. Mogao slowing down 1 under the tower, turns around to the other 2 right underneath. Kalas takes a chunk, 3 players coming, 2 players pulled, 2 players knocked, and that's going to be a kill for Ice, at least 1. Dardes is able to jump right away. Cyclone can't catch up. There's Deathwalker, doesn't need to. If Nulissa's going to get tossed, half of the HP bar gone in 1 shot from Kronos, but won't be followed up on.
Great initiation from Deathwalker. They found the kill earlier on to Mogao, immediately recognizing that he was about to come out of lurking in the water. Kalas finds the pull. The stun from NBK secures the guaranteed damage to find that first kill, but not going to find any objectives after. They were poked out quite heavily.
Mogao, man, I loved his initial play coming from the right side, but it looked like he couldn't choose which player he wanted to target. At first, he wanted to dive the tower, then he wanted to save his teammates a little bit, but with Ice Ice in the corner, Ice Ice makes the play of that exchange, winds up getting 2 knockups, easily securing a kill for Fantastique, but Mogao just seemed like he couldn't make the decision.
He did a great job forcing the purification out of Wolfie. There was a jump earlier on. Mogao anticipated, found the plug, forced the purification, wanted to commit to the kill under the tier 1 tower, but thought otherwise, wanted to stay back with the team.
Or perhaps called otherwise. At the end of the day, we always focus on teams listening to the call. Might have just been a different decision.
That's very true. Could have been a call by Dardas being made just to stay in the back line instead of being too aggressive. You don't want to separate yourself away from a mid to late game Hui and an Isis. The team fight control between the Spirit Ball, the Ricochet stun, and the Silence. It's a lot of sequence of chain crowd control events.
Which brings us to an interesting point as we see Cyclone defending against the onslaught of Fantastique. Who's doing the shot calling? Cyclone, they have their captain, Collis. He's earned a lot of stripes by playing with Paradigm at DreamHack. Certainly one of the more vocal players on this team. Vote NBK known to have a vocal shot as well, so probably a combination of the dual lane. But on Fantastique, I really wonder. I know Jiffy was a little bit of the communications for Fnatic once upon a time, but I wonder how that translates to this, where Fantastique, like I said, Mogao, Dardas, and Jermaine are a team in and of themselves, and World Edit and Lulissa are just sort of add-ons onto this squad.
I would say Fantastique are doing a great job just communicating with all of each other. I don't think there's a specific shot caller in mind for Fantastique.
Sure.
They're still a new team, and they're trying to figure it out as they go along in their first game of the SPL.
Yeah, I'd love to speak to these guys and girls later on, as Nulissa is our first woman player in the SPL, at least in a starting position. It would be very interesting to see how this team really breaks it down. I'd love to speak to them because, like you said, they're a newer team, and a lot of times we'll see that where everybody sort of throws everything into the pot, and then as the games go on, you'll solidify one big voice.
That timing of the back from Nalissa could have opened the door for Cyclone to force the Gold Fury. It is respawning at this point. They're positioning themselves to look for somebody. Got spotted out by Dardas from a distance. Kalis is spotted out, so not really going to see any action.
Yeah, I mean, right there at this point in the game, 20 minutes on the clock, that can be bursted down really quickly. It takes about 18 seconds to make it from the base to about the buff, so yeah, would have been rough.
But unfortunately, Vote MBK was on the right, covering for the solo lane. Mogao gonna get deterred away. His magical defense is a little bit there with the Void Stone, so he should be able to contest that.
Look at this, stuck in the jungle, Kalas, but a fantastic pillar from Wolfie. That's a pickoff for Fantastique if that pillar doesn't show up.
Also a great job from Kalis using the flames to prevent the knockup and the pull.
We've seen that a number of times now. Keep your eye on Deathwalker, because nobody on Fantastique has done so. Coming around the side, 1-2 pulls going the way of Kalis. Dardas under tower, knockup and damage coming through as well. Deathwalker tosses Dardas back into the stew, and Ice Ice Baby's the chef. He puts 4 on the board.
Mogao makes the rotation. We see a little bit of a staggered rotation from Vote MBK, electing to go for the blue buff instead. He thinks that the team fight is going to fade away.
Not quite the case just yet. Wolfie tosses the pillar. Nulissa tosses the Spirit Ball. One does damage. Nulissa winds up on the good side of that one. Top player damage in this game, Anatoly, is going to be your solo Sobek. Summer of Sobek coming to a close, but Mogao proving that the Guardian solo lane not quite over. He'll lose his tower, as Kronos is one of the more adept characters when it comes to doing this, but coming through. Mogao defends. Hair of HP left on the tower. Meanwhile, mid lane, Nulissa and World Edit surrounded by 3-4 players in Cyclone jerseys. Here comes help from Jermaine on the left-hand side, dealing damage to Deathwalker. Nulissa gets an easy heal, but still playing aggressive.
Deathwalker just walked behind 3 people, didn't elect to use any abilities at all, despite his teammates being right around. Just wants to make sure that there's no silliness going on, just wants to get the objectives instead. I'm surprised that Cyclone didn't go for either the Gold Fury or a tower, really, off of their kill onto Dardas earlier on.
Just a couple of, I guess, too many other options available. If they go for one, Fantastique can take the other. That's a possibility. We've seen that a number of times. Gold Fury and then Fire try and take it on the other side.
And the way Cyclone initiated that last fight onto Dardas, they found the pull onto the Bacchus. He disengages, but yet again, he gets knocked back in to the team fight. We saw Deathwalker going in and finding the ultimate onto Dardas, and that's something that the Cyclone could potentially look to exploit yet again.
Possibly. They'll have to get some gold in their pockets first, though. 23 in. It's a low kill count game. Only 7, with Cyclone owning 4 of them, but the action has certainly not been low. Fantastique find themselves leading by about 2,500 gold. A modest lead, but certainly in a much different and better position than game number 1.
I would say late game, it's going to be very scary to deal with Cyclone on the side of Chrono specifically and the Xingqian with the amount of control that he's going to provide with the cooldowns as well as just the protections from Callus as well.
Yeah, Fantastique want to take this 2,500 gold lead and push it out right now. This is a mid-game composition. Isis is a little bit early, but Isis, Sobek, even Jermaine and the Hou Yi, these guys, they really want to find their footing right now. That's why they're going for the gold.
Darda's going to zone out Wolfie, finding the stun and the knockup. Going to force the purification and the jump away.
Leashed.
So that's going to be a nice target for Fantastique.
Leashed as Deathwalker again comes from the backside. We've seen the solo laner do that 3 or 4 times now, just repeatedly and routinely coming around the enemy and trying to find the flank. Half HP on the Gold Fury. Darda's trying to get what he can. There's a great hit from World Edit to keep people in combat. Gold Fury goes down. It's Fantastique's, and in comes Cyclone. Knock up on Nulissa. 3 players chained, 1 player grabbed. Darda's in some trouble, but so is Nulissa. Grabbed up, thrown down, and shut down. Ice Baby gets another kill. That's 5 for Cyclone. Down come the Suns. Not enough damage. Deathwalker surrounded by 2, but he's the scary one. Now that there's 4 surrounding him, different story, and he still gets out.
Jermaine taking a lot of damage from Ice Baby, forced to jump away, gets knocked out by Dardas, should get stunned out here, forced to use the Sanctuary, but he has nowhere to go. He's gonna get away.
Jermaine trying to find the ricochet shot, staying very, very safe with his positioning. He's low, but there's the shot, another flank from Deathwalker. Support takes out support, but Jermaine trying to play it safe. Gotta watch Ice Baby on the right.
In the mid lane, however, Kronos, he was trying to get the
Ice
Phoenix.
behind Jermaine. Ice behind Jermaine. World Edit gets Deathwalker, but Jermaine stays alive just barely. He's thanking his Devo gloves.
I love the presence of mind from Mogao to back to defend from Vote NBK. Had NBK stayed in that team fight, that could have been easily a D side. He really wanted to sneak that middle Phoenix. It was a long shot, but it just didn't work out for them. And now that door kind of closed for Cyclone. They could have opened up Fire Giant.
Exactly. Fantastic. Like I said, this is the point in the game where they really want to make their shove forward. The Gold Fury is a good shot for it. The team fight right there didn't really go anybody's way. Winds up being about a wash, I'd say.
Well, they get the tier 2 tower in the mid lane, so they at least get some gold in return with that push from MBK, but he overextended to the Phoenix. Now,
right.
It was a great presence of mind to force the issue onto the team fight because the fact that Circle Protection was used. They got a lot of relics onto Nalissa right off the bat. Deathwalker still had his ultimate to secure the repositioning, found that early kill, but without it being a 5-on-4 immediately after, we see Fantastique to come slowly and surely back into the fight. Ice Baby running away was the key factor in that fight.
What I really loved coming out of Fantastique was the positioning from Jermaine, really utilizing Hou Yi's kit to the nth degree. He's very low, he's 20%, but because of the range extending feature of Ricochet, he's able to stay relevant in the team fight, being all the way back, but using the walls of the jungle to position his shots.
And Cyclone, they're going to try to force the issue onto the tier 2 right tower. They recognize that Fantastique are just not quite in position. The Obelisk going to slow. Mogao going to dash and knock up a lot of members, using Lurking in the Water just to prevent any sort of more crowd controls.
And World Edit going to show up as well, pushing Cyclone off of the tower, and that's a good defensive set because no ultimates really used outside of Mogao.
Just great on her Obelisk, yet again preventing the initiation from Fantastique. They want to enter this team fight, but going through those sands is not something they really want to do.
We've seen that in 2 games on 2 separate players. Love how well Cyclone as a team is able to really use this on her. Here, World Edit gets pulled in. A little bit of trouble for the jungler. He gets help with the turtle, but not enough. That pull, even if he doesn't get pulled, will be the death of World Edit. Knockup is strong, but Sanctuary saves the day. World Edit's alive. He'll get out. Can't say the same about Ice Baby. Jermaine gets the shot.
So much baiting done by World Edit between the heal from his own ultimate, the heal from the Circle of Protection, the meditation on top of that. He just absorbed everything that Cyclone threw at him.
We mentioned that with respect to Dardas. If you're going to get focused, at least be able to use everything and have all of the cooldowns be used on yourself. That winds up happening to World Edit. Honestly, kind of a mistake, just out of position. Whether or not it's a mistake, we'll have to talk to the guys. But just out of position, or seemingly so. Uses every tool. Cyclone, in turn, uses every tool. And now Fantastique are able to fight this. No ultimates on the side of anybody but Mogao, but half HP on the Fire Giant. Fantastique want the fight. There's the chains out of Collis, not going to find anybody. Wolfie jumps up and down. Deathwalker on the right-hand side, but Wolfie's in trouble. Sanctuary used Mogao too early. Damage coming out into Wolfie. Won't seal the deal until Mogao finally finds it with the sickening strike. Tail whip knocks a couple of players up. Vote NBK in trouble. Vote NBK is dead. Darnez jumps on top. 5 players alive from Fantastique. Surging forward, looking for the kills and finding them. Jermaine on top of Collis. Deathwalker walks up top and the other player walks down south. Everybody from Fantastique ready to fight.
Just a great job killing the NBK before the rewind coming out. That's 3 dead on the side of Cyclone. Tier 1 tower gonna get aggressed because of just a little how low they are on the side of Fantastique. They know they can get this tier 2 as well. Maybe they can squeeze out a Phoenix here.
I mean, Ice Ice Baby and Deathwalker are very healthy. We saw both of them. We saw one of the back, Ice Ice still sitting on the backside. That's why Fantastique are really going for these towers. Should they have hit the Fire Giant, Ice Ice could really disrupt that.
And they've been doing such a great job finding these repositionings, whether it's the ultimate from Deathwalker, whether it's the pull from Ice Ice, even the on her impale is doing a great job just pushing people around the side of Fantastique.
Fantastique making the retreat. Nulissa not going to want to back there. Ice Ice and Deathwalker still on the chase. Would be able to find a pickoff, and that's why the meditation comes out, just in case. But after the meditation, now it's the turnaround. Deathwalker doesn't get hit by the ricochet. If he did, I would have expected the all-in from Fantastique. But totally, if Fantastique wanted to back, they kind of lost their opportunity.
Right, we're going to see a knock-up onto Collis. He's forced to use the sprint just to disengage. Mogao looking for the plunk, slightly off the mark, though.
And that's going to put him behind enemy lines. 2 players. Mogao gets flipped up. Chains good onto the Sobek. And Cyclone now split up. Fantastique have positioning on the Fire Giant, but like I said, this team, can we see gold in hand by any chance? Look at this. Fantastique want to back. They have half an item. They're going to now, Toli. But is this a mistake?
They got spotted by that Sentry Ward. We see Jermaine back and Ice Ice Baby. He's trying to see if he can catch anybody out of position, but a great separation between Nulissa and Dardes.
And this is how Fantastique choose to tackle this situation. They're going to stagger their backs. Everybody wants to back, but if everybody backs, Cyclone just take a free Fire Giant. So 1 player goes back home, buys, 2 players go back, always having a presence around FG just in case. Well executed by Fantastique. As I said, I think they stayed a little bit too long, lost their window, and now had to figure out how to deal with that.
But now the fact that Jermaine has spent that gold, they're looking for a team fight. They're going to find the root and the knock-up onto Collis. The stun's going to force out the ultimate from Collis. He's going to fall first.
And World Edit gets credit on that one. Following up Deathwalker is Mogao. Couldn't find the pluck, but gets chased out anyway. Purification used and not available. There's Deathwalker tossing the ultimate. Jermaine kills Deathwalker before he can finish the spin cycle. The back was successful. That's why you want to buy your items. Both crit already done for the Hunter. Full build for Jermaine. 3-0 and 7. Just 1 kill short of 100% kill participation. And Fire Giant goes the way of Fantastique.
Sobek had the top player damage earlier on in the game. It's the late game now. Hu Yi on Jermaine. Gonna make a name for himself. He's gonna try to close out the game. He found those 2 easy kills because of all those items. Now, objectively, with the Fire Giant, he's going to shred through the tower and the Phoenixes.
Yeah, I mean, he had 2,000 gold to spend. That's the end of his build, basically. And by allowing the Hunter to go back before you engage on the next fight, very intelligent, like high-level strategy coming out from Fantastique that opens the door for the right-hand push. Stun ball going to come out, hit nobody, but neither will Kronos. Look at all the damage Jermaine's able to deal right into Collis, and Mogao serves him up again. Jermaine gets another kill. That's a dozen for Fantastique.
So much damage off of those crits. Jermaine on top of everything, finding their first Phoenix of the game. Fantastique. They want to play it rather safe, though, after that Phoenix. They're going to reset and push out the middle wave. They want to make sure that they have something with them.
Look at all that. In those 2 team fights, Jermaine winds up dealing 5,000 to 6,000 damage. so much chunking coming out of these late game hunters. Hou-Yi specifically, definitely a big part of it. And you know, there's a reason that this team winds up coming together the way it does. Nulissa and World adding on to Jermaine and Dardes. Jermaine has been a huge focal point for all of these iterations of Les Myrmidons, or whatever they call their team at the moment. And right there, that's proof of it. Cyclone do wind up taking a gold Curie, but at this point in the game, Toli, doesn't really amount to much.
It's still 8,000 gold, which isn't that bad at 33 minutes, but it's the fact that Fantastique, they have the Fire Giant, and they're up to their late game build. And the crowd control that they have between Bacchus, Isis, Sobek is what allows them to find these late game kills with the damage on top of Jermaine.
We're seeing I love what happens. Dardes jumps on somebody, Jermaine shoots them. If they're still alive after they use their escape, Mogao plucks them back into Jermaine, shooting them. And that's what we're seeing. Just a lot of setup for Jermaine. Nulissa stunning in silence so Jermaine can shoot them. Mogao plucking so Jermaine can shoot them. And that's what we're going to see over here from Fantastique on the left side.
We're going to see Dardes leading the pack. He wants to find that crucial knock-up to allow Jermaine the damage that he needs. Typhoon forcing the purification out of Jermaine. Pluck a little bit off the mark. Callus going to force out the ultimate.
And with no purification, Jermaine gets pulled. Callus just barely going to escape. Jermaine gets tossed, but it's closer to Callus. Jumps right on top with the Goomba Stomp. Nulissa finds one outside. Wolfie shuts down Jermaine. Great play, but the sun's already coming down. Nulissa seals the deal. Deathwalker also very low. He'll be chased under the Titan. Can't be found, but Fantastique with a fantastic play wind up taking out the Titan. Half HP. Players from Cyclone still playing defense. This one is not secure just yet. Deathwalker shutting down Nulissa. 3 players from Fantastique trying to bring this one home. 2,900, 2,000, 1,500, and that's the game. Titan falls down. Fantastique find the split.
They find the split. Very important to start off your first